I really hope that we can get Stormont back up and running. There are a whole load of decisions that need to be made, and they are better made at Stormont rather than at Westminster. That's what the people of Northern Ireland want. I think that's what the elected representatives of those people also want, and of course that's what we want at Westminster.
So has Rishi fixed it? His Brexit deal was finally announced yesterday, and unlike many of the Brexit deals which went before it, seems to have been broadly accepted. So is Brexit finally done? Let's ask James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary. Good morning to you. Good morning, James Cleverly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, absolutely, yes.
Oh.
So is this it now? Is Brexit finally done?
Well, look, we've got to remember that we left the European Union in 2020, but what this is making sure that the residual elements, the very important relationship between Northern Ireland and the EU, and protecting Northern Ireland's place within the UK is preserved. And so this is a very, very important piece of work. It means that one of the residual issues has been resolved, and I'm very, very pleased that we've got this done.
Now, the DUP don't seem to be completely 100% satisfied. I mean, they did have 7 tests, so I suppose it would be difficult to completely satisfy those 7 tests. But what's your feeling about what they're saying? Some of them are saying the deal doesn't quite cut the mustard. That was Ian Paisley Jr., I think. Are you concerned about which way they're going to go?
Well, we took the voices from both the communities, the businesses, and of course the elected representatives in Northern Ireland very, very seriously when we negotiated this deal, and the 7 tests from the DUP were very much in our minds as we put the proposals together. Now, I'm confident that what we have done has addressed those important issues. It protects Northern Ireland's place within the UK. It makes sure that goods travelling within the UK, that's from GB to Northern Ireland, can do so effortlessly, and that the tax treatments that we decide in the UK government apply to the whole of the UK, not just bits of it, that products can flow within the UK's internal market effortlessly. Those are the things that we wanted to achieve. And ultimately, one of the things that really, really mattered was to make sure that the people of Northern Ireland and their elected representatives had a genuine say in the rules that affected them. And through the Stormont break, that's exactly what we've put in place.
But obviously, they also want a functioning assembly as well. I mean,
Absolutely,
is it? I mean, clearly you want everything to work. You want to kind of tick this off and move on. Clearly Rishi Sunak wants to do that. You want to do that. But is it possible that you get this deal through, but the DUP still don't turn up at Stormont?
Well, I really hope that we can get Stormont back up and running. There are a whole load of decisions that need to be made, and they are better made at Stormont rather than at Westminster. That's what the people of Northern Ireland want. I think that's what the elected representatives of those people also want, and of course that's what we want at Westminster. So I really, really hope that that Stormont can get back up and running. We've made, as I say, we've made decisions based very, very much on the concerns that were raised to us, particularly by the unionist community and their representatives, and we've always said that our priority is the maintenance of Northern Ireland within the UK, getting the Stormont up and running, and protecting the wonderful, really important gains that were made for peace and prosperity as part of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement.
Can we just talk very quickly about the so-called break, this idea of having a veto over new EU laws? So the problem there, of course, is that, I mean, there is a very complicated process, which we won't go into right now, where particular parties have to say, no, we don't want this, and then the UK government has to get involved too. But the EU does retain the right to refer cases of any infringement to the ECJ. It may be unlikely that it will get to that, but ultimately that ECJ oversight, that ultimate decision still rests with them.
On where it comes to the EU single market, the ECJ obviously and quite rightly has jurisdiction over stuff to do with the EU's single market. But all the trade activities which are exclusively within the UK
Sure.
fit within the UK's regulatory framework, and
But the ECJ was a sticking point, as you know, for many people, and it
Yeah, so
seems like it's still there.
well, look, we've got to understand what's happened. We have removed 1,700 pages worth of EU law. Only 3% of what was previously applicable is still applicable,
Okay.
and only in the very narrow field of where we interact with the EU single market. So this is the minimal amount to facilitate the complete seamless border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. We always committed to having no hard border, and this is the minimum that is required to facilitate that.
Okay. I want to ask you about King Charles and his presence after this deal was decided. Who decided that, and was it appropriate?
Well, ultimately, the palace make the decision on His Majesty's diary, but it's not at all unusual for senior dignitaries to meet the head of state, and we see this quite regularly.
But Buckingham Palace say that they didn't. They denied that.
Denied what?
Denied that they had been responsible for the meeting.
Well, hang on. What I said was ultimately the palace make the decisions about the King's diary, but it is not unusual. It's not at all unusual for His Majesty the King to meet senior representatives from either countries or institutions overseas.
Right. Well, I still don't quite understand, and I think a lot of people just want to know. It's on the front page of quite a few papers. Ursula von der Leyen is not a head of state, so we'd not normally expect to meet the King.
No, she's the president of the
Yes.
European Commission.
Yeah.
And senior heads of state, senior representatives of organisations. It is not unusual for them to meet
Okay.
our head of state. So and look,
But the government must have had some involvement in this.
Yeah, well, obviously we speak to the palace about the diaries of inward visitors. Of course, it was because Ursula von der Leyen was coming to the UK to finalise the negotiations with the Prime Minister that she was even in the UK. So of course we discussed with the palace the inward visits of dignitaries. But I mean, the bottom line is that the negotiations were done by myself, Chris Eaton-Harris, the Prime Minister Ursula von der Leyen, and the team. This was a courtesy to a visiting dignitary.
Okay. James Cleverly, thank you very much for that. That's James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary. And if you like that,
You can listen to us.
we're sticking asthma. Have you forgotten?
Well done. Every Monday to Thursday on Times Radio Breakfast.